Hi guys, for this video we're going to be doing a space adventure. I wanted to think about an exciting space adventure that you might want to create. And we're going to be focusing on an interesting block. It's one of the end blocks. We haven't really talked about the end blocks yet in any of the tutorials so far. But if you look here, when I click on the red end blocks, the choices I have is this just standard block, which means stop, end the series of blocks. And I have this block, which is repeat forever, if I wanted one of the characters to repeat forever. But there's another end block that you can create, and that is to move to the next scene. And this block only appears once you create a second scene. So here I have my first scene where I have my astronaut on the moon with his rocket ship. And I'm going to go over to the right here and I'm going to click to create a new scene. And for my next scene, I want my rocket ship to be traveling back to Earth. So I'm selecting a new background. And in this scene, I'm only going to put the rocket ship because my astronaut is going to be inside the rocket ship. And he'll be traveling back to Earth. So I'll also go back. And one of the characters you can choose is actually planets. And if you don't see a character you like, you can also actually create characters, which is a lot of fun, which we could discuss in another tutorial. So here I'm looking for, there we go, my planet Earth character, and I found it. Okay. So in my second scene, I have my astronaut traveling in his rocket ship back to the planet Earth. And now you'll notice that a new block, a new end block has appeared. This end block was not there before, but since I added a second scene, it is now available as an option. And this can be used to get your first scene to automatically change into your second scene without having to click anything. And that's really nice if you want your story to continue and you want to have multiple scenes, which is a really fun thing to do. So now let's talk about how we can use. Now, if you look here, I've jumped ahead a little bit and added some directions for each of my characters. And I've even added a third scene. And I went ahead and I used that end block. So here I have my first character starts when the flag is clicked. And I'll show you the scene. And she says, "Wow, I'm on the moon." And then she gets into her rocket ship. She says, "Time to go back to Earth." And then she sends a message
10, 9,
to the rocket
8,
ship.
7,
And the countdown
6,
begins.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off.
And as soon as that rocket ship finishes his code, it sends that end block message to switch to the next scene. And here we have another time, another message to go to the next scene.
And back on Earth.
And here we have our astronaut back on the planet Earth. So if you look closely at the codes, you'll see in our first scene, the rocket ship code, the last character to move, sends us to the second scene where our rocket is traveling toward Earth. And the rocket, when it finishes its code, then sends us to the third scene. If you look at that end block at the end of his code. And in our final scene, our astronaut is back on Earth, so our end block is just a solid red end block because there are no more scenes to go to. So now you know how to use end blocks to switch from scene to scene. Again, remember, you're not going to see this option unless you already created a second scene. So don't forget that. When you first start looking for it, you might not see it. I can't wait to see your space creations and your space stories. See if you can use 3 scenes like I did, and see if you can use those end blocks to automatically get your character to transfer to the next scene without having to click on the scene. Some of the different movements I did in this tutorial, we did in previous tutorials. So if you want to learn how to do any of those, you could look back at some of the tutorials we've done already. But for this tutorial, I want you to focus on getting your story to switch between 3 scenes automatically by using the end blocks that send the directions to switch scenes. I can't wait to see